back outside, and the main reason that we really wanted to come, apart from looking at all the aircraft, is because in here is a Spitfire that was recovered from Loch Doon, which if you remember in that video we told you about, and here it is.
It was now their turn to devote 20 years of patience and dedication to the restoration of Heckle's Spitfire, a task which, despite some setbacks, they believe we completed by 2003.
This is the actual Spitfire that was raised from Loch Doon, apart from the wings, which are replicas. And we're going to listen to one of the guys who helped recover this plane from Loch Doon, one of the divers. He's about to do a talk.
Well, thanks for coming, folks, and taking the time to find out a little bit of the background to a Spitfire. Doc, the story here started back in about 1976. The creators of the museum, which had just been formed from an aviation archaeology group, really. They came to the local sub-athlete club, of which I was a member, and told us about a Spitfire that crashed in Loch Doon in 1941. Loch Doon, if you don't know, it's about an hour's drive from here on the Dumfries Aviation border, near the village of Dumfries. So we did a lot of research. We had to get permission from the Ministry of Defence, landowners, all that sort of thing. And we actually found a man who was a 12-year-old boy and seen the plane crash in the Loch. He was up on the hillside with his dad and his brother. So we got him on site and he could tell us roughly where the plane crashed. We have to bear in mind this is like 40 years later, and the lad was only 12 at the time. It was a good starting up point for research. The first problem we had was that a lot of peat in the water, the visibility was really poor. And on the bottom of the loch is a very fine silt, like dust really. As soon as you disturb it, it took it everywhere. You couldn't see a thing. So the whole search was done pretty much by feel and touch. So we had to devise a search method that took all this on board. As you can imagine, progress was pretty slow. Gradually, as time went on, we started to get a little bit of help from divers up and down the country, helping us through mainly word of mouth, really, the odd newspaper articles, that type of thing. In particular, an advanced project group from the Blackpool area, a team of experienced divers looking for a new project. So they started coming here for all we can during the summer to help us to search, and that certainly speeds things up a bit. However, after 4 years searching, we found absolutely nothing. And we decided at the start of 1982 that this is going to be our last year of searching. When people started to lose interest and drifted away. It wasn't very enjoyable diving, really. So by that time we covered a reasonable area in that section of the loch. So we said we'd give it one more go in 1982. And obviously eventually we did find it. What we found initially was the fuselage from just behind the cockpit back. All the tailplane was all complete. It was in a pretty poor state after 40 years in the water. Then we decided to continue the search a lot longer. We still wanted to find the wings, the cockpit, the engine, really as much of the plane as we could. We had half a notion that we might try to at least partially rebuild it if we found enough of the plane. During that time, I was lucky enough to find the engine, the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, sitting at the back. That's the actual engine from the Spitfire. You can see the frame as it came out of the water there on the video. So I found the engine 2 feet below the silt at the bottom of the loch. When we eventually managed to recover it and get back here, we contacted Rolls-Royce, and they came and took the engine away. Well, several months later, they brought it back and told us that the engine actually still turns after 40 years in the water. I think the fact it was in the silt probably preserved it. I can always remember when we were trying to uncover it and get it ashore. There was still oil escaping from it. So that's probably a saving grace. Because we'd found the fuselage, we got the number from the plane off the side, P7540. So therefore we could go back to RAF and trace its past history from their records, because this is before the days of the internet. We discovered that the plane first flew in late 1940 with 66 squadron based at Gravesend in Kent. Then by early 1941 it was transferred for a short period to 2 other squadrons. Then by the time it was 6 months old, it was pretty well obsolete. Because of the rapid development and upgrade going on during the war, our plane was just a bit too slow really. So it was very rapid development going on. So ours was given to a Czech squadron as a training Spitfire. Now at the time, the Czech squadron was based at RAF Ayr, Scotland. So that's where they ended up. The pilot unfortunately didn't survive the crash. He was Francis Heckel, Czech pilot. Now at the start of the war he flew with the Czech Air Force. Then when Germans invaded, he escaped into Poland, joined the Polish Air Force. Then he was taken prisoner by Russians. He escaped, he made his way from Poland all the way across Europe to India. Then managed to get a lift to the UK, joined the RAF, and was posted to the Czech squadron. On his second training flight, he was over Loch Doon in our Spitfire. He was a bit too low over the water. He tried to bank around and his starboard wing hit the water, and the plane crashed, and unfortunately he was killed. After having achieved so much beforehand, he died in Loch Doon at the age of 26. So when we got the bits of the Spitfire back here, we had no idea how to build a Spitfire. We didn't have the knowledge, didn't have the facilities, didn't have the equipment, didn't have the money. So we started from scratch really. First of all, we tried to identify which bits were missing. And we couldn't afford to buy them. They are still pretty much available. We had to make bits ourselves, or repair the bits that were damaged or corroded, or acquire the bits we needed as and when we could afford it. I mean, it was many years before we even had a workshop. And it took the form of a plant on the site here. That's how basic it was. Had we a workshop like we have now, things would have been so much different. But gradually over the years it started to take shape. We knew by this stage it was a Mark II Spitfire, quite a handy one. And we also discovered that the only other Mark II Spitfire left was the one in the picture there. It still flies with the battle bit memorial flight based at RAF Conisby. So when we were getting to the stage of rebuilding the cockpit, we went down to Conisby a couple of times. We'd all over that Spitfire taking pictures, asking questions. The flight science engineering guy called Paul Blacker, very knowledgeable. He's helped us to maintain the 6 Spitfires they have in the collection. He's written books on the subject. So he could tell us a lot, tell us what to do and what not to do.
So here it is. It's amazing we can actually get up close and have a look.
By sheer man, or diver power, the Spitfire was maneuvered into shallow water, where it would then be carried out on dry land for the all-important preservation works to begin.
This is the actual cockpit that was raised from Loch Doon.
That little boy, Paul Harrison, now 43, remembered the tragic scene and his water war when he had last seen his Spitfire. German Aviation Museum set to spray
There isn't, is there?
An engine, a plane, pilots, guns.
as the Spitfire finally
And this is the original engine that Peter, chap that's just been talking, found under the silt, 2 foot into the silt on the lock. And they raised it, sent it back to Rolls-Royce, and it came back a couple of months later as a running engine. Well, it says they said
Still
it's still
turned over,
turned
didn't
over.
it? Yeah. It's a Rolls-Royce Griffin engine.
It's an interesting turn of things, but this old aerodrome. WWII is a museum curator and assists in the restoration of the Spitfire. The museum is run by a group of over 100 supporters, although a hard core of 15 members literally devote their lives to the cause. It was now their turn to devote 20 years of patience and dedication to the restoration of the Spitfire, a task which, despite some setbacks, they believe will be completed by 2003. Throughout the 7-year project, from the chilling task of sweep search and Loch Doon, the divers never forgot that it was also the last resting place of flying officer Francis Airport. Therefore, with the recovery of the aircraft from the sunless skies, the divers gathered on the shore to pay tribute to the Spitfire pilot. Diving officer David.
You're right though, they are bigger. When you see them on TV or
Yeah.
films, they look smaller.
They do.
Yeah.
With the 3.5 square miles, and within 35-year-old memory of the boss who was the dive team knew.
We really wanted to come here to see this after learning about it at Loch Doon. So here's some information about the search for finding a Spitfire. This is the
A Blackpool diver, Barry
video.
Barcliffe, went down for the day's final sweep. He saw what he first thought was the wreckage of a caravan. For 7 years, 17 sub-aqua clubs had braved the cold depths of Loch Doon, and this was no caravan. At last, they had found Frantisek's Spitfire.
So it took 6 years, 109 individual sub-aqua divers and 567 separate dives to locate the Spitfire. Though no trace of the pilot was ever found, as we said in the Loch Doon video.
The aircraft had been badly damaged by the impact. Both wings and the engine had been ripped off, but the peat-stained water of Loch Doon had preserved the fuselage well.
Eventually, on the 15th of May 1982, a diver literally bumped into the fuselage lying on the floor of the lock. It was raised with airbags and taken ashore, where a crowd of onlookers had gathered to see it.
Royal Air Force Squadron markings were still clearly visible on the fuselage fabric. And the tail wheel, remarkably, remained inflated at pressure. After years of searching, the divers could scarcely believe their luck had changed.
After spraying it with anti-corrosion fluid, it was taken to a museum at Dumfries, and it wasn't long before the remains of the wings were recovered, leaving just the engine as the last major component to be found.
During the blistering hot month of August 1982, the divers' recovery plans were completed, and the teams met at Loch Doon on Friday the 26th of August. A timber frame had been built to support the Spitfire's fuselage during the lift, and old fire brigade hosing was fashioned into securing straps. Compressors charged diving tanks all day to supply the air needed to fill dozens of special underwater lifting bags. Despite not knowing whether their efforts the next day would be successful, an air of excitement settled over the camp on the eve of the salvage attempt, along with clouds of fearsome
Flying Officer František Heckel, born in 1915 in former Czechoslovakia.
was a Spitfire's fuselage.
In the mid-30s, he graduated from military academy as a lieutenant in the Air Force.
The morning briefing dealt with the delicate matter of
When his homeland was occupied by Nazi troops in March 1939, he decided to cross the border to Poland, which he managed to do in July of that year. He wasn't alone, hundreds of his brothers in arms did as well. František Heckel belonged to a group of Czech airmen who joined the Polish Air Force at Deblin in August 1939 and fought against the Luftwaffe air attack on the 2nd September. Forced with a massive German onslaught in the airmen retreated southwest in order to reach Romania, but they were caught by the Russian Red Army advancing from the east and sent to be interned in Russia. Thankfully though, Heckel managed to get on a train which left Russia in July 1940, and after a long and dangerous journey through Turkey, Egypt and India, he finally reached Britain. He joined the RAF Volunteer Reserve on the 6th of November 1940 as a pilot officer and returned to flying in February 1941 with a refresher course at No. 2 Signal School at Yatesbury on Percival Proctor's, where he was promoted to flying officer. Heckel first flew this Spitfire on Friday 24th of October. The following day, Saturday 25th of October at 10:25, he took off from air in Spitfire P7540 for his second and final Spitfire sortie. Heckel made his way south to Loch Doon and flew low and fast over the water. He made a banking turn to the right, but his starboard wingtip struck the surface and the aircraft was lost to sight in an explosion of spray. Eyewitnesses reported that the only trace remaining when the waters had settled was a light oil slick.
By sheer man, or diver power, the Spitfire was manoeuvred into shallow water, where it could then be carried out onto dry land for the all-important preservation work to begin.
Staff from No. 63 Maintenance Unit at Carluke commenced a search quickly by boat and followed the oil slick, but had been blown away from the accident spot by strong winds. They continued searching unsuccessfully until the 2nd of November, when the search was called off. The only remains which were recovered were a flying boot and a glove bearing the name of the pilot, confirming his identity. He was 26 years old when he died.
Before it could be transported to the museum 40 miles away.
Sadly, nothing's ever been found of František Heckel, and he still lies in the quiet waters of Loch Doon. He's mentioned on panel number 36 of the RAF Memorial in Runnymede, and is commemorated by a memorial stone at the side of Loch Doon. He was posthumously decorated with the Czech War Cross and the Polish Virtually Military. In 1991, he was promoted to Colonel in Memoriam.
Power the Spitfire in flight, over 300 miles an hour, and weighed more than a ton. Such a heavy weight was problematic.
Tracing the history of this particular Spitfire, it did actually fly and when they've traced the history of this particular aircraft, it's been found that it actually did fly and fight in the Battle of Britain.
It's part of the 6-6 squadron, so that's quite a famous
Quite a
squadron.
famous squadron, yes. So there we are. That's why we wanted to come to this museum, to round off the story that we started in Loch Doon.
The Aviation Museum is sited in Heathrow Airfield, a wartime bombing training base.
We'll have a wander around and look at some more of the planes now before we leave. Oh no, actually, a cup of coffee.